by heck, it's cold, Bimblers. You join me in Shrewsbury, or if you're a posh southern softie, Shrewsbury. I couldn't resist. I found out too much information about it, and we're only going to scratch the surface today. So we're off to see some bridges on the River Severn, and possibly a church. So let's stop messing about, and let's bimble.
Things to show me, but life just keeps turning back to the way things were before. All new this time, you would still see all that became attached from the way things were before.
There's a lot more traffic in Shrewsbury than I would have thought. But anyway, we bimble on. We reach Welsh Bridge. It's not called Welsh Bridge because it's in Wales. It's just on the Welsh side of Shrewsbury. It was built between 1793 and 1795, and it replaced a bridge called St George's Bridge. That was built in 1262. St George's Bridge was one of those quaint medieval bridges that had houses in the middle of it, and market stalls and shops, all in the middle of the River Severn. By the 1790s it wasn't fit for purpose, so a John Tilley and a John Carline Jr. designed and built Welsh Bridge. Or did they? More on that at the end of the bimble. John Tilley was originally in partnership with John Carline Sr., and the Carline family were stonemasons going back many generations. Welsh Bridge has 4 arches. It's 81 metres long, and it would have cost £8,000 in the 1790s. That's about 800 grand in today's money. Anyway, there's more bridges in Shrewsbury. Let's bimble.
Meant to feel we have motive, we have the time. We were meant to lead extraordinary lives. It changed with time. You still know me. We just keep facing back to the way things were before.
I'm currently sat underneath Porthill Footbridge, which was built in 1922, and it was built by a company called David Rowell & Co. They were very well known for building these wibbly-wobbly suspension footbridges. My Chester Bimblers may think it looks similar to Queen's Park Bridge over the River Dee, you know, near where they do all the boat trips from. Well, that was David Rowell & Co. as well. And my Warrington Bimblers may think it looks similar to a bridge in Howley near Victoria Park, going over the River Mersey. Same fellas. They worked all over, from Guatemala to the Falkland Islands, to here in Shrewsbury. The bridge was opened on the 18th of January 1923, and it cost £2,600. That's about £130,000 in today's money. £2,000 of that £2,600 was donated by the Shropshire Horticultural Society. Speaking of which, let's have a look round the park. All this green stuff in this loop in the River Severn is called the quarry, and the sunken bit in the middle is called the dingle. It's called a quarry because it used to be a quarry. It's where they got all the stone and clay to build all the fabulous buildings in Shrewsbury. The park's main claim to fame is that from 1946 to 1974, its superintendent was Percy Thrower. If you don't know who Percy Thrower is, he was the first celebrity gardener. He used to present Gardener's World. He was the original Alan Titchmarsh or Charlie Dimmock, and to the best of my knowledge, Percy Thrower didn't wear a bra either. He was well qualified to be a BBC expert and to do some gardening here in Shrewsbury. He was a journeyman gardener. He did gardening at Windsor Castle and for the Leeds Parks Department. And on top of all that, he was the Blue Peter gardener. A statue of him by the dingle is well deserved. It's not just bridges, rivers and gardens here in Shrewsbury though. They have churches, loads of them. I was sport for choice, but I eventually settled on St Chad's Church. It's built in my favourite style, pre-Gothic, Georgian style. But there's been a church here for at least 1,000 years before they built St Chad's in 1792. It was King Offa of the Mercians. Do you remember him from last week? He apparently built the first church in this location. He was the King of Mercia between 757 and 796 AD when he died. It was a George Stewart that designed St Chad's as we see it today, in its round formation. Apparently he submitted 4 designs, 3 of which were round or oval. It was very fashionable in the late 1700s to build round or oval churches. Which reminds me of a fact that we brought up in the last Bimble. The word church coming from the Anglo-Saxon word kirk. Well, apparently the Anglo-Saxon word kirk comes from the ancient Greek word circus, kirk. It doesn't mean lions and tigers and trapeze artists and clowns. It means a circle, doesn't it? When you go to the circus, they perform in a circle, don't they? And you get Piccadilly Circus, which is a roundabout. Mr. Stewart should have used that in his arguments with the committee that commissioned St Chad's Church. He'd provided them with drawings of his preferred design in situ, so he could see how it would look on the landscape. And he took the committee's silence on the matter that they'd chosen his round design. It was very late in the design stage that the committee objected to it. They wanted a square church. Mr. Stewart had to remind them that any work he'd already done would need to be paid for, and any future work would have to be paid for on top of that. The committee didn't want to pay twice, so they just decided to have a round church, which we're all glad about. St Chad's main claim to fame is that Charles Darwin was baptised here in 1809. Charles Darwin said that religion was tribal survival strategy, but he did believe in God, so it wasn't a complete waste of time. Anyway, that's enough about churches. There's more bridges down there. Let's bimble.
We had the time. We were meant to lead extraordinary lives, edged over lines. Days keep moving, but time just keeps falling back to the way things were before. It just proves to...
Kingsland Bridge is a privately owned toll bridge that's been in Shrewsbury since 1883. It was heavily campaigned for by Henry Robertson. Do you remember him from last week's Bimble? He was the prolific railway builder and the owner of the Brimbo Steelworks, the fella that built Chirk Viaduct. But he was also MP for Shrewsbury, twice, according to my big book of Bimble. That's between 1862 and 1865, and then again from 1874 until 1885. It was during that second stint that Kingsland Bridge was built, no doubt thanks to him. It was designed by a John William Grover, and his big claim to fame is he helped design the roof of the Albert Hall. And it was all put together by the Cleveland Bridge and Engineering Company, the company that built the Tees Transporter Bridge, and the Forth Road Bridge, and the big arch over Wembley Stadium, and Fiddler's Ferry Power Station. That shall be coming down this month. It's 20p to cross, or free if you're bimbling. But we're not crossing over. We've got one more bridge to see. Let's bimble.
To the way things were before. It just proves to me how it's meant to feel. We have a motive, we have the time. We were meant to lead extraordinary lives. It just proves to me how it's meant to feel. We have a motive, we have the time. We were meant to lead extraordinary lives.
If you're going to have Welsh Bridge on the Welsh side of Shrewsbury, well then you've got to have English Bridge on the other side, haven't you? What you see today is a modified version of English Bridge that was put back together in 1926, but it was put back together 5 foot lower and a bit wider, so you could get cars on that over. It was a John Gwynn that designed the original English Bridge, and it was opened in 1774, and the stonemasons that built the bridge were John Tilley and John Carline Sr. If you think that it looks a lot like Welsh Bridge, that's why. John Tilley and John Carline Jr. just copied it. John Gwynn died in 1786, so he couldn't really say anything about it. But I think if he was alive, he'd have been a bit miffed, wouldn't he? Prior to 1774, there actually would have been 2 bridges here, with a drawbridge in between. And in between the 2 bridges would have been something called Coleham Island. Those 2 bridges would have gone back to Norman times, and again, there would have been those quaint medieval ones with houses. Apparently it had a tower at one end. In 1770, Coleham Island was dug up, and the dirt from Coleham Island was used to infill English Bridge. I'd love to cross over English Bridge and go and visit Shrewsbury Abbey. And there's a very interesting railway bridge, and I know for a fact there's a very rare post box. But we'll have to leave that for another day. Shrewsbury too. I have to get off now because I've got an off-peak return.